Good evening, and welcome back to Sleep Stories of India. I am glad you are here. Wherever you are listening from tonight, a quiet room, the end of a long drive, a bed that has been waiting for you all day. You can set everything down now. Nothing is required of you for the next hour and a half. Nothing at all. Tonight is a special night for this channel. Tonight we are telling the whole of the Ramayana, one of the two great epics of India, from its first river to its final lamp, beginning to end, in one long, slow telling. In its oldest form, the poem runs to some 24,000 verses. You do not need to remember a single one of them. That is my work tonight, not yours. A few soft words before we begin. This is a story from a living, sacred tradition, and it is loved by many. What you will hear is retold gently for rest details, simplified, always with respect. If the Ramayana is part of your worship or your study, let tonight be only a companion. The full texts, and your own teachers, hold the depths. Scholars spent more than 40 years, an entire working lifetime, carrying the complete poem into English, and their translation guided this telling. It will be waiting in the description, whenever you want to go deeper. And one promise, which I will keep all night. Nothing in this story will startle you. Its battles are old and settled and will be told quietly. Its endings were written before its beginnings. You may fall asleep at any moment, anywhere in it, and you will have missed nothing that will not keep. If sleep comes early, let it take you. The story will go on without you, the way a river goes on. So, dim whatever is still bright. Settle into the weight of the blankets. Let your breathing lengthen on its own. We begin where the poem itself begins, beside a river. A very long time ago, before there was a story, there was a river. A slow, wide river in northern India. An age and an age ago, moving between banks of reed and pale sand. A poet lived beside it, a quiet man named Valmiki, who had walked out of a hard life into a gentle one, and who spent his mornings by the water, watching it the way you might be watching the inside of your own eyelids now. One morning, the old poem tells us, he stood looking at a pair of river birds, two white cranes dancing together in the shallows. And a hunter's arrow came out of the trees and took one of the two. The other circled its fallen companion, crying, and would not leave. Valmiki's grief came out of him as words, and the words, to his own astonishment, came out balanced in a new meter, even and slow, shaped like sorrow itself. He stood on the bank, listening to what he had just said. Tradition tells us this was the first true verse the world had heard, and soon after, a wandering sage came to him and said, in effect, you have found the vessel. Now let me give you what it was made to carry. The story of a prince called Rama. Into that meter, verse by verse, over years, Valmiki poured the whole of it, and it is his poem, in its long, slow river of verses, that has flowed down the centuries to this room, tonight, to you. So let the river carry us to a kingdom called Kosala, and to its capital, Ayodhya, a city on the river, Sarayu, whose name means the unconquerable, though no one alive could remember it ever needing to be defended. The poem describes it the way you describe a thing you love. Wide, moated streets laid out like parted hair, mango orchards, music from upper windows, granaries full, gates open. Its king was Dasharatha, a good king grown old, and his palace held 3 queens. Kausalya, the eldest, patient as morning. Kaikeyi, the youngest, brave and bright. She had once driven the king's war chariot out of the middle of a battlefield and saved his life. And he had promised her, for that, any 2 wishes she might ever ask. Remember those 2 wishes. They are sleeping now, and will sleep for years yet. And Sumitra, the gentlest of the 3, who watched everything and said little. The king had a full treasury, a loyal city, and no children. That was the one grief in Ayodhya. So a great offering was prepared on the riverbank, with fires and verses and clarified butter poured into the flames, and at the height of it a shining figure rose out of the fire, holding a vessel of sweet golden payasa, and said, "Give this to your queens." And the king did. And in time, 4 sons were born under a favorable star: Rama to Kausalya, Bharata to Kaikeyi, and twin boys, Lakshmana and Shatrughna, to Sumitra. Now the poem lets us in on a secret here, at the very beginning, and I will let you in on it too, because it is the secret that makes this story safe to sleep inside. Far to the south, on an island of gold called Lanka, there ruled a king named Ravana, learned, powerful, and armored by an old blessing that no god and no demon could ever slay him. He had been too proud to ask for protection from men, and so the gods went to Vishnu, the keeper and preserver of the world, and asked him to be born as a man. Vishnu agreed. That is who arrived in Ayodhya that spring morning, small and dark, and unusually calm in Kausalya's arms. The whole of tonight's story was settled in that one arrangement. Before any of it happened, nothing you will hear tonight is truly in doubt. You can rest inside that certainty, the way the city rested inside its open gates. The 4 boys grew up the way rivers braid. Rama and Lakshmana were one pair. Lakshmana would not eat unless Rama had eaten, and would not sleep until Rama slept. Bharata and Shatrughna were the other, and they were loved in the streets of Ayodhya, the way rain is loved. When Rama was barely 16, a visitor came to the court, the sage Vishwamitra, a man who had once been a king himself, and had burned all that away into something quieter and stranger. He asked the king for a favor that made the old man's heart stumble. "Give me Rama," he said. "My forest rights are being broken by wild and violent things, and only he can guard them." Dasharatha offered armies instead, offered himself. But a promise to a sage is a promise, and the boy would be walking beside one of the most powerful beings alive. So Rama went, and Lakshmana, as ever, went with him. They walked south through forest for days, and the sage taught them as they walked, verses against hunger, verses against weariness, the kind of knowledge that is passed only on foot, only at dawn. There was an old darkness at the edge of that forest, a scourge the local hermits feared, and the poem tells that Rama ended it there, quietly, in an afternoon. His first work as a protector of others. We will not linger on it. The forest itself did not linger on it. By evening the birds had returned, and the sage's great rite was held through 6 days and 6 nights. And nothing broke it, because a boy with a bow stood awake at its edge, while everyone else slept, which is, if you think of it, what a guardian is. You may borrow that feeling tonight. Someone in the story is standing watch, so nothing else has to. Their road home bent east, to the kingdom of Videha and its city Mithila, where a king named Janaka kept a thing no one could use, an immense bow of the god Shiva, so heavy that whole companies of soldiers moved it on an 8-wheeled cart. Janaka had a daughter, found as a baby in the furrow of a plowed field, lifted out of the brown earth itself. Sita, the earth's own child, raised as the jewel of Mithila. Janaka had vowed that only the man who could bend Shiva's bow would marry her. Kings had come from every direction, strained, sweated, failed, and gone home. Rama was asked, almost as a courtesy, if he wished to see the bow. He walked to the cart. He lifted the bow the way you lift a familiar door latch in the dark, set one end to the ground, bent it back to string it, and it broke. With a sound the poem says rolled out over the kingdom like thunder, heard from very far away. And then the sound was gone, and there was only a young man standing, a little embarrassed beside 2 halves of a legend, and a princess watching him from a high window, with her heart already decided. The weddings for all 4 brothers were matched that season. Sita's sisters and cousins to Rama's brothers filled Mithila with lamps, ghee lamps on every sill and stair, garlands of white jasmine, the murmur of priests, the smoke of sandalwood rising into a winter sky. Dasharatha wept the way fathers weep at weddings, which is mostly relief, and when it was over, the city let its lamps burn down slowly, one by one, into the small hours. Let them burn down now. Night is settling over Mithila and over you. If your thoughts are loosening at their edges, let them loosen. You can drift here as easily as anywhere the story will keep. And I will keep telling it. We are in Ayodhya again, years later. The boys are grown men now, and of the four, it is Rama the city has fallen in love with, not for the bow, in the end, but for the temper. He remembered names. He visited the sick. He spoke to gardeners about gardens, and to boatmen about the river, and meant it. The poem lists it verse after verse, patient, truthful, even-hearted, the first to greet, and the last to anger. Dasharatha, watching his son move through the city like good weather, felt his own age in his bones, and made the decision every old king dreams of. He would step back. Rama would be crowned as regent, heir and ruler in all but final name. And when the announcement went out, Ayodhya did not sleep, but it was the happiest insomnia in the world. Banners went up between rooftops. Doorways were festooned with mango leaves and marigold. Lamp oil sellers ran out of lamp oil. The coronation was set for the very next morning, under a favorable star, and the whole city lay awake, smiling in the dark. Now I must tell you how the next morning went another way, and I will ask you to do something as I tell it. Hold no anger toward anyone in this part of the story. The poem, at its wisest, holds none. What happens next was set in motion long before, by wishes already promised, and a destiny already agreed to, and everyone in it is carried along like leaves on the same slow current. In the queen's wing of the palace lived an old servant woman named Manthara, hunched and sharp-eyed, who had nursed Queen Kaikeyi since she was a baby, and loved her the fierce, narrow way that the powerless love the powerful.